To kick off the year of 2026, we are focusing on one of my absolute favorite prospects out there. From the San Jose Sharks, Igor Chernyshov has gotten off to a lightning quick start to his NHL career.
You are Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to Locked On NHL Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this show, we break down everything prospects related for you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. I'm your host, Sebastian High, the USA Scout over at Elite Prospects, and I hope that you had a lovely New Year's as we are now into the month of January of the year 2026. But the prospect coverage does not cease. We keep rolling here on the channel, and today's focus is a player that I've been wanting to do a full episode on ever since I did the last full episode on this player alongside of Hattie Kalakash when we were still a duo hosting the podcast. And that was when Igor Chernyshov was a draft eligible, and we did our full-length half-hour scouting report on him, and I was raving about him for the entire 30 minutes. So we're going to do a little bit of a repeat of that because my enthusiasm for this player is quite far-reaching, but we're going to be breaking down why this season has been so spectacular for this player. Secondly, we're going to be looking at what makes him so special, what aspects of his game stand out, how does he play the game of hockey, which San Jose Sharks fans are quickly finding out. And finally, we'll wrap things up by discussing just how high his eventual upside could be in the National Hockey League, because this guy, as a little teaser, is built to be a modern power forward. He's so well-rounded. He's so versatile. He can score. He can defend. Whatever you ask of him, he can do. And that chemistry that's been kind of starting to kindle with Macklin Celebrini is certainly something very exciting to keep your eyes on, especially if you are a Sharks fan. So that's the outlook for today's show. We're really just talking about Igor Chernyshov. But even if you're not a Sharks fan, I think this is a worthwhile episode to listen to, especially because I think it breaks down the style of power forward that is going to excel in the National Hockey League in the coming 10 years. I think it's players like Chernishov that are going to just rise really, really quickly, as he has, going from playing in Russia, which was split between the KHL and the MHL, so between the best league and the junior league. Then a dominant third of a season in the OHL with the Saginaw Spirit last season. And then this year he has been, well, elite in the AHL, and he's at 8 points in 7 games in the National Hockey League since his call-up, and he's been playing easily second line minutes so far this season in the NHL in those 7 games since the call-up, and it's been very, very impressive to watch. So who is this player? If you are not yet introduced to the type of player that Chernishov is, he is a 6'3", 205-pound right shot left winger. He loves to attack off of his offside, where he's able to just cut in and shoot. Is able to really find those scoring lanes from the wing, but he's just so versatile. He's able to drive the net front. He's able to dominate physically with that big frame. And on top of all of that, he's a player that is more than responsible defensively. He's hard-nosed defensively, has a lot of habits that really, really help him out. And you pair that with powerful skating and really, really, really slick handling maneuvers. Yeah, he's a tough player to contain. So in terms of this season, right, in the AHL with the San Jose Barracuda, Chernishov played in 25 games and scored 23 points, including 11 goals. That is very impressive production. Point-a-game production for a rookie, and not just a rookie who just turned 20 years old on the last day of November. He started the season at 19 years of age. Very, very young player for the American Hockey League. And despite him being called up now for the last 2 weeks or more to the NHL, he still has a joint lead in scoring with the Barracuda. I mean, I think they've only played 3 games since his call-up, so I can't really fault them too much. But he's tied with fellow prospects Philip Bistedt and Quentin Musty. two other very skilled players to keep an eye on in terms of the future top 6 or top 9 upside in San Jose. But Chernishov, I think one of the reasons that he was able to translate so effectively to the AHL first and then to the NHL, it's the way he thinks the game. This is a very quick thinker, a guy who is able to find a way to kind of support his line mates and figure out where his place is in a respective team or line in order to be of the most support. And I think that mentality to really try to do whatever he can to support the team is one of the aspects that makes him quite mature and refined for his age, especially for a power forward. They often take longer to develop as kind of like physically dominant players. That has not been the case for Chernishov, who really has been taking big steps in his development rather quickly. And if you're watching on YouTube, excuse the cat tail that is going through your screen right now. I do have a cat on my desk who is trying to step all over my keyboard. So if you hear some pitter-patter, that is the reason. But Igor Chernyshov, again, really taking those steps very quickly. The tools have always been fantastic. I've been a massive fan of this player since his draft year. He was inside my top 15 for the entire 2024 draft class. He finished that year at precisely 15th overall on my board, something that I quite quickly regretted. There was a couple coin tosses in there, players like Michael Brandzeg-Newgard, Cole Iserman, Stian Solberg, that I eventually put ahead of him in those rankings. But genuinely, before he even suited up a single game with the Saginaw Spirit last season, I was starting to rethink that ranking and kind of wishing that I'd put Chernishov at either like 10th or 11th on my board, because I was a really big fan of him all season long. And I think in the end, I was slightly influenced by a bit more skepticism that was coming through on his game overall in the public discourse. There are other people that I was talking with about this player that weren't as high on him as I was, and I think I slowed him down a little bit in my ranking, just in terms of perhaps having a couple doubts over what I was seeing. But with hindsight, and I have for this episode gone back and watched some of his draft year footage to just see how does he look now in hindsight in his draft year performances. And yeah, he was really spectacular. And it was a tale of two players really for the season with Chernishov, and not in a bad way at all. He played half the season in junior hockey in the MHL and half the season in the KHL at the top tier of Russian pro hockey. In the MHL, this guy was dominant. He was driving the net. He was flashing elite level handling ability, really trying to just dissect defenses, not just with his size, his frame, his strength, his middle drive, but also through his slick ability with the puck on his stick, flashing some impressive playmaking ability. And more than anything, it was like combination of handling and shooting ability that just lit things up. In the KHL, however, he was playing bottom 6 minutes mostly and had to have a very different style of play. Again, in the MHL, he scored 28 points, including 13 goals in 22 regular season games. And in the KHL, he played really the back half of the season, mostly played 34 games, logged 3 goals, 4 points in the regular season, and also suited up in 10 playoff games without a single point on the board. Still, it has to be noted, this was with Dynamo Moscow, which was a pretty good organization in that season. And still, he was able to crack the team. And he stayed there, not because he was really gifted offensively or because he was this shift-dominating power forward, but because he was incredibly hard to play against. He was dominating the net front at 18 years or 17, 18 years old in the KHL, but more than anything, was terrific in his own end. That defensive ability, the habits, the ability to apply pressure, to use his reach, his range, his long stick, his strength to either just like turn pucks over or angle players to the outside towards the perimeter, and to just protect that middle lane with real vigor. That made him stand out to me time and time again. So even when his games weren't all that flashy, where he was keeping his puck torches nice and quick, because in the KHL, if you're a young player and you hang on to the puck too long, you're getting benched for quite a few shifts. Still, he was able to shine in that role, playing a very different style of hockey, but being able to adjust his game to flourish in a different environment. And that adaptability to go into a new environment and kind of tinker with this game and adjust how he gets involved, how he tries to manage the puck, and where he really focuses his energy on the ice. That is genuinely Igor Chernyshov biggest strength, and we've seen that in the NHL this season. He's played 7 games, 3 goals, 8 points so far. Got a nice goal and 2-point night in a shootout win against the Minnesota Wild. Scored a goal the game before against the Anaheim Ducks. Had another goal and assist the game before that against the Vancouver Canucks. He's riding 5 points in his last 3 games. That chemistry with Celebrini, whenever they touch the ice together, it is just wonderful to watch. They tick at such a high pace. Of course, Celebrini is the line driver there, but Chernyshov's able to bring something to the equation that few other players in the Sharks lineup have been able to do this season. That's create time and space by crashing the net front, getting to the middle of the ice, drawing defenders to him. And then when he does have the puck, he's able to beat opponents one-on-one with his handling ability, with his strength. He's able to protect possession, drive the outside, cut to the middle of the ice. He's so versatile. And again, defensively, he's no slouch at all. Even at the young age of 20 years old in the National Hockey League, Chernishov is more than able to carry his own weight defensively to this stage in his first 7 games. I've been so impressed by watching him play in his own end, just constantly applying pressure, really intelligent as well in terms of understanding the defensive system that San Jose is playing in, and when to follow his man, when to give it up in that kind of more hybrid system that they've been playing recently. And overall, I think that Chernishov is a standout player in this organization. And I was at the draft in 2024, and I was so shocked to see him fall outside the first round because the toolkit to me always screamed top 15. And he should have gone there. And with hindsight, he probably should have gone top 10. So Igor Chernyshov is a fantastic prospect, and we'll keep digging into what makes him so special by breaking down his style in the next segment. But before we do that, we do have a quick little message from our sponsors here at Locked On NHL Prospects. Fridays always feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making it even better. Every Friday night before the game tips off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off your weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new: boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. And the timing is perfect, right before games and right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without needing to overthink it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, let's keep things rolling here, looking at the game of Igor Chernyshov of the San Jose Sharks. And before we really kick things off here, if you're watching on YouTube, please, especially if you're a Sharks fan, let me know down below in the comments what has impressed you with this player, what has surprised you, and what your expectations are for him for the rest of the season and beyond. Where does he fit into the future of this team? I would love to hear your insights as well, because I'm just here on the outside looking in. I do not watch every single Sharks game, but whenever I have tuned in this past little stretch, he has been magnificent. So in terms of his style of game, Igor Chernyshov blends power and speed like few other power forwards that have come through the draft in the last 4 or 5 years. You have other guys as well in that mix, but it's a pretty short list of guys. And Chernishov has been one of my favorites to watch because he just is a player without many or any notable weaknesses. Like sometimes you have really powerful, speedy power forwards that sacrifice defense for offense, that can create offensively, but are maybe sometimes black holes in their own end. Think of players like Josh Anderson of the Montreal Canadiens as infamously a player like this. Who can drive the middle hard, can lower the shoulder, create through speed and power, but there's always kind of a drawback with them. Chernyshov's not that type of player. He's able to leverage his power and speed to be really impactful defensively. I think he has a penalty killing potential as well in the NHL. And on top of that, at even strength, is a player that really does take calculated risks. When he does drive hard, try to be that solo rusher, he's doing that at the right moment. He's doing it in a situation, for instance, if his teammates are on a line change, to establish offensive zone possession, wait for support, get the puck to a teammate, and then go for a zone change. It's not just blindly trying to take those risks. And then defensively as well, this is a guy that buckles in and works hard. He gets his head down on the back check. There's a lot to like in terms of those habits here, but I think it's that blend of power and speed that he's able to really leverage in both directions on the ice that makes him so exciting as a power forward. But it's far from the only aspect of his game. This is a guy that drives the middle of the ice really, really hard. Powerful guy, obviously. He's got that frame. He's got that skating ability. He's got the puck protection skill and even the handling ability to kind of make everything work and tie everything together. Like the hands are just mesmerizing at their best. And he's able to really, really like blend that and then so quickly into like a curl and drag release. And there's so much power behind his shot. This guy has definitive goal scoring upside in the NHL. Let me tell you that much. But he's not a one trick pony at all. He's difficult to predict. He's not a guy that just predictably shoots every time he has the puck in a scoring position. Increasingly in the last year and a half that I've been watching him since he came, or last year, ever since he came back from injury in the OHL to begin the 2024-25 season, Chernishov is a player that's been able to use his shooting threat to open up passing lanes, and he's been really deceptive and manipulative, but pulling off some nice no-look passes, really tricking defenders with his body positioning and just changing the angle of his pass at the very last moment. That adaptability under pressure and the manipulative skill that he has to make defenders think one thing before executing another. That is really, really impressive. And I thought that his playmaking game really started to blossom in Saginaw last season. He played 23 games in the OHL. He had 19 goals, which is fantastic, but he had a ludicrous 36 assists playing on the wing of Michael Misa. And I mean, hey, if those two are long-term fits down the road on like a second line in San Jose, that could be phenomenal. But the chemistry that's been building between Chernishov and Celebrini here in recent weeks in San Jose has just been so much fun to watch. The amount that they're able to play off of each other, the space that they're able to create for one another, and just the intuitive understanding of where each other are going to be on the ice while playing at speed and driving hard at defenders and like really being able to make the most of the space that their hard drives to net create kind of in that like mid to high slot. It's been so much fun. I love this player. I think he's a great fit in San Jose, and he's becoming an NHLer faster than most people expected that he would. And yeah, he's a very, very exciting talent. And I'd love again to hear what your thoughts have been from this player, because he's just a speedy battering ram who just constantly attacks the middle and is able to fire off shots in stride, is able to beat defenders off the mark. And I think he has every tool to kind of translate all of his strengths to the NHL. And we're seeing that in real time here in front of us, where he's just, making a surprisingly comfortable start to life in the National Hockey League. And again, on top of all of these high-end tools, whether it be the shot, the hands, the power, the speed, he's a guy that's able to elevate elite talent, make their lives easier, be a hard-nosed F1, win his battles on the forecheck, win pucks down low off of dump-ins, get the pucks right back into dangerous scoring positions to execute plays on alongside the trailers on his line that arrive later into the offensive zone. And on top of all that, he's got a defensive upside too. The intensity, the intelligence, the scanning habits, to the awareness of where he actually needs to be to support. He's not one of these guys that just works really hard defensively, but forgets to look around and see what's actually developing, and as such pulls themselves way out of the play. We see that often with rookies that are hardworking defensively. They actually put their team into like 5-on-4 positions sometimes because they just try to be too aggressive. They get beat, and then the puck's going the other way in their own zone. Chernishov's a guy that's able to really take his risks very, very carefully, but still be able to constantly apply pressure and angle play towards the outside. So Those are the reasons that I've always loved Igor Chernyshov style. And that wraps up this second segment. And in the last one, we're going to look back at how this player has progressed since his draft year, as I'll be reading out a game report that I wrote at the very beginning of that 2024 draft class in a September game that he played. We're going to look at maybe some combinations in terms of the San Jose roster, both this season and down the stretch, where he could be a perfect line complement down the line. But before we do that, we do have a quick little message from our sponsors here at Locked On NHL Prospects. All right, let's wrap up the show here in the final segment, looking at Igor Chernyshov's progression. Fantastic start to life in the National Hockey League, and overall, just the versatility and upside that he brings to the San Jose Sharks' future. As I mentioned there in the tail end of last segment, I wanted to read out a game report that I wrote on about a game that he played on September 8th of 2023. This was the very beginning of that 2024 draft cycle. This was a game he played at the junior level, so in the MHL. And overall, the things that stood out massively to me with this player were his skating, his shooting ability, the handling, the physicality, the intensity, and the overall dynamism that he brought to the ice. And what I wrote here was, Chernishov completely looked the part of a top 10 talent and pro-ready player in this game. He played with a physicality, intensity, and pace that I have rarely seen in the MHL, and they certainly overwhelmed his opponents. Off the puck, he was aggressively detail-oriented and completed every assignment methodically. With the puck, he flashed the skill that makes him special, including strong handling, including a mobile top hand, completed a few long stretch passes, and fired off a ton of powerful shots from high danger areas. That said, while he is full of pace, adaptability, and dynamism off puck, he was a bit more static in possession in this game as a whole. The tools are fantastic and his foundation is strong, but he needs to play in an environment where his toolkit can shine, which in my opinion has to be against professional competition, because right now he's playing AHL style hockey versus MHL competition, and it's not allowing him to refine those specific physical and pace tools that he has in his game. Some of the things I loved that were really good in his performance were his combination of goal-scoring instincts and tools, mobility, puck skills, and adaptability, which is a rare combination and makes him a prototypical modern European power forward. Has some stylistic elements like guys like Juraj Slafkovsky that we've seen come in through the draft in recent years. He committed to completing every single assignment and was dedicated to his details to put in a ton of work. He was strong enough to project as a power forward in the National Hockey League and looked like a true man against boys at this level, while being perpetually slot-oriented in his offensive implications. The negatives were few and far between, but I did see him be a bit static with the puck on his stick, more so than without it. He was a lot more capable at kind of finding space to be dangerous in when he was moving off puck, off the blind side, off the shoulder from defenders, whereas when he had the puck, he was trying to keep things a little bit too simple. He had enough skill to be a bit more creative and dynamic in that game than he was in the end. And last but not least, the processing speed and composure were two things that didn't shine massively in this game in terms of around the net. He flubbed on a couple of shots. He seemed to be a little bit anxious, perhaps, when he was being pressured, and that was something that I wanted to keep an eye on. But perpetually, as that season evolved, when he was playing in the KHL, the things I was seeing improved were all of these small little details, that composure under pressure, the overall quickness of execution and of processing and thinking around the net front, and just being able to execute in lightning speed on plays was something that wasn't as visible at the junior level as it was at the pro level. And I think we've seen the same thing here in his jump from the OHL to the AHL and now NHL this season. In the OHL, yeah, he brought a lot more of that dynamic skill than he was able to show in the Russian junior circuit in his draft year. But it's really the details that have massively shown here and made his jump to the National Hockey League and the AHL before that so much easier. He plays the game the right way. He works so hard. He's so committed to the details, and he's constantly trying to learn from his errors, refine his game further, and support his team in any way he possibly can. And that makes him stand out, especially for a 20-year-old power forward. He's genuinely, not many power forwards at all have made the NHL at the young age of 20 in recent years. Of course, we have first overall picks like Slafkovsky that have done that jump, but the list beyond those players is very, very small. And Chernishov is seemingly not letting go of his spot in the NHL lineup right now. He's playing far too good of hockey to kind of be sent back down. And maybe he's going to hit a dry spell at some point this season and get sent back to the Barracuda. But that would not be an issue whatsoever. The Sharks have so much talent coming through here in the next couple of seasons, especially guys like Musty and Chernishov. Among the forwards, of course, Michael Misa as well. You have guys like Kasper Halttunen. There's a lot of talent here coming through, but I think Chernishov is the most refined of that entire bunch, and quite clearly is making himself a very, very nice start to life in the National Hockey League. And the last thing I want to talk about here is potential line combinations that Chernishov could work with. And when I was kind of typing through this exercise, the thing I realized is that Chernishov is basically a great complement to any player in the Sharks' top six or projected top six down the line. Michael Misa, there's established chemistry there. Macklin Celebrini, there's really, really, really strong chemistry being built there right now, game after game. William Eklund, I'm seeing a similar thing there as well, where Chernyshov's power and middle drive is creating enough time and space for Eklund's puck skills and dynamic playmaking to really take another step forward. Will Smith, similar thing there. I think a power forward is able to complement any of these players, whether it be the franchise centerman in Macklin Celebrini, the playmaking wizards in Smith and Eklund, the future two-way center who's probably going to be a second liner and a luxury one at that, and Michael Misa. There is such established chemistry there already. And in the AHL, he's played great with Quentin Musty, who's going to be, I think, a top six guy down the line as well in San Jose. And doesn't matter who you plug Chernishov with, he is going to excel. That versatility is worth its weight in gold. But I'd love to hear from you. Who would be your favorite potential line mates for Chernishov down the line? If I had to put together a list, maybe not for the entirety of this season, I've really liked Toffoli with Celebrini as well, but a line of Will Smith, Macklin Celebrini, and Igor Chernyshov could be disgusting as a complementary trio where each of them have a very specific task and responsibility and role on that line that can play off of each other just so wonderfully. Chernishov is a great prospect. I love watching him play. He's so much fun, and he's so easy to fall in love with if he's not playing against your team, that is. And yeah, Sharks fans, I'd love to hear from you. What have been your takeaways of this play, and maybe what have been the things that he's struggled with a little bit more? When I was watching him play, I think I caught two really good viewings of him in the NHL. Maybe every game's been like that, but I'd be a bit surprised if that's been the case. What have been some more of the weaknesses, maybe in the games where there's a few more struggles? What are the aspects of his game that have been a little bit more maybe like slow to adapt to the NHL pace and level of play? But that wraps things up here for us today. Thank you so much for tuning in to this first show of the year 2026. We have, close to 200 more episodes coming your way for the rest of the year. But that is it here for us today. Thank you so much for listening. As always, I'm your host, Sebastian Hine. I'll catch you listening again very, very soon.